everyone, and welcome to Indo-Afric Therapeutics. My name is Rose Duo. I am so glad that you are here. Today, we are going to discuss an interesting topic, and I hope you'll all enjoy it. The topic is empathy. Empathy is actually, as I call it, the human superpower we all need. The human superpower we all need. Let me ask you something. Are you ready? Have you ever felt misunderstood? Like someone heard your words but didn't really hear your heart? It stings, doesn't it? At some point, every one of us has felt unseen, unheard, and even dismissed. And more often than not, what was missing in that moment was empathy. Empathy is more than just being nice. It is more than offering a polite smile or saying that must be hard. Like you're trying to talk to somebody about a hard experience and they go like, oh, that must be hard. Just to make you feel like they are following through. No, empathy is more than that. It's okay to identify with someone else's pain, but empathy is the ability to truly, truly step into another person's experience and see the world through their eyes, even if it's just for a moment. Let's say a little child is trying to tell you something that happened in school, and you're just there rushing them. No, that is not empathy. Empathy is trying to put yourself in that child's shoes and experiencing what they experience and trying to feel how they felt in that moment. Now, empathy, it's a bridge between our inner world and someone else's. One that allows connection, healing, and understanding. It allows us to connect deeply or at a deeper level. It brings about healing. It brings about a deeper understanding. In this conversation today, we are going to explore what empathy really means, why it is essential for every human relationship, be it parent-child, child-parent, spouses, teacher, student, whatever relationship, even at work. Yeah, we need to reduce toxic work environments. Right? So we need to understand what are we talking about when we talk about empathy, right? So empathy is not just about being nice. It's not just about being nice, like we have said before. It's not just about being polite. It's okay to be polite, but we need to step further. And that's why we are saying that today we are going to understand more deeply what empathy really means in our relationships, in our societies, because these are places, these are areas we experience lack of empathy. And just to mention before I go on that empathy might just be the most important human skill we all need to practice. The most important human skill that we all need to practice for us to create the world we all need to be in. Can that be possible? Probably yes. Maybe it is possible in our relationships, in our families. So, what exactly is empathy? Now, empathy is the ability to feel with someone, not just for them. It means turning in emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically to what another person is going through without trying to fix it or compare it with your own story. There are different types of empathy, and today we are going to understand these different types of empathy. We have emotional empathy, when you actually feel what another person is feeling. You cry when they cry, you flinch when they are hurt. Then we have cognitive empathy, when you intellectually understand someone else's experience, even if you haven't lived it yourself. Then we have compassionate empathy. Compassionate empathy, when your understanding and emotions lead you to take action and support or even comfort someone. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with someone. It doesn't mean exposing harmful, it doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior. What it does mean is that you are willing to pause your own perspective long enough to really see and acknowledge another person's humanity, regardless of what they have done. And that acknowledgement, it can be life-changing. So why do we all need to practice empathy? Why do we all need to practice empathy? We all need to practice empathy because, number one, it strengthens relationships, whether in friendships or families or workplaces or even marriages. Empathy allows people to feel safe and valued. When someone says, I get it, I hear you, walls come down and real connection begins. That's how real connections begin. It prevents judgment and conflict. That's something else. When we practice empathy, it prevents judgment and conflicts. When you pause to consider what someone else might be experiencing, why they are acting the way they are, you are less likely to jump into conclusions or even react harshly. Empathy builds patience. Empathy builds patience. Number three, empathy boosts emotional intelligence. Who doesn't want to feel they are more emotionally intelligent? So empathy boosts emotional intelligence. The more you practice empathy, the more self-aware and emotionally tuned you become. The more self-aware and emotionally tuned you become. You begin to notice your own feelings, biases, and reactions. And that kind of awareness can guide your personal growth. Number four, empathy fuels progress. Empathy fuels progress. Empathy allows us to care about people who don't look like us. who don't look like us. They don't seem like they meet our standards. They don't live like us or even think like us. Empathy is the foundation of justice, equality, and community. Without it, meaningful change is impossible. Without empathy, meaningful change or the change we desire to see in our community or in our relationship is impossible. Number 5, why we all need to practice empathy? It's because empathy heals. It heals. For someone going through grief, anxiety, trauma, shame, empathy is the balm, the remedy. It says you are not alone. And sometimes that's the very thing that keeps that person going. So, what happens in the absence of empathy? What happens in the absence of empathy? Let us turn the lens to the other side. What happens in the absence of empathy? When empathy is absent, the effects are more serious and more common than we would like to admit. And I know we have seen this in our society, in our relationships. Number 1, there is loneliness and disconnection. Where there is no empathy, you will notice there is a lot of loneliness and disconnection. So without empathy, people feel isolated, they stop sharing, they stop trusting, relationships become surface level, and emotional intimacy disappears. Very unfortunate. Number 2, when there's lack of empathy, misunderstandings and miscommunications take place. Misunderstandings and miscommunications take place. Probably most of you are even experiencing that right now in your family or at work, somewhere. So if we can't and if we won't try to understand where someone is coming from, conversations quickly turn into arguments. Listening becomes waiting to respond, not hearing to understand. It's like someone was just waiting for someone else to speak and they're there to respond without understanding. So another thing that happens when we lack or where there's lack of empathy is you'll notice a lot of bullying and cruelty. Bullying and cruelty. Most forms of emotional or physical abuse stem from lack of empathy. And I'll repeat that. Most forms of emotional abuse, most forms of physical abuse, and we have seen this a lot in our media today, they all stem out from lack of empathy. When we stop seeing others as human, as complex, feeling beings. People are generally complex and they have feelings and emotions. It becomes easier to mistreat them. When we don't put ourselves in their shoes, then it's easier for us to mistreat them. Very unfortunate. Another thing that happens where there's lack of empathy is cultural division and injustice. Cultural division and injustice. So you find entire societies suffer when empathy is not cultivated. Racism, xenophobia, classism. This one is not from my class, this is not from my race. This don't grow where empathy lives. But where empathy is absent, these evils thrive. Our number 5 on this is mental health struggles. And I think we are living in the age where mental health struggles are so rampant. We are all affected one way or another. So when people feel ignored, misunderstood, or emotionally abandoned, their mental health often declines. So empathy isn't therapy, but it is incredibly therapeutic. Empathy is not therapy, but it is incredibly therapeutic. Where empathy is missing, what's left is coldness, blame, and even apathy. And let's be honest, that's not the kind of world any of us want to live in. So, how can we practice empathy in everyday life? How can we practice empathy in our everyday life? How do we become empathetic? Now, like any other skill, and at the beginning I mentioned, I think this is a skill that everybody needs to practice. Now, like any other skill, empathy can be learned and strengthened. Here is how you can begin practicing it, even right now. Number 1, listen without interrupting. Listen without interrupting. How many of us are able to do that? Don't rush to offer advice or even to correct. Don't relate everything back to your story. Yeah, even me, I also went through that. Sometimes just being present is enough. So listen without interrupting. Don't rush to offer advice. Number 2, ask questions instead of making assumptions. This one is always like this. Ask questions without making assumptions. Try questions like, what's been on your mind lately? Or, how did that make you feel? Because these kind of questions open doors to deeper understanding, and that is practicing empathy. Okay. Number 3, watch body language and tone. Watch body language and tone. Much of communication is nonverbal. Empathy requires paying attention to not just what is said, but how it is said. So be observant. Look at the body language and the tone, because much of the communication is nonverbal. Number 4, expose yourself to different perspectives. Don't be so egocentric. Expose yourself to different perspectives. Read books, watch documentaries, or have conversations with people from different cultures, and lifestyles and experiences. That way, you gain exposure so that you don't see things from a narrow perspective, but you are able to see things from a broader perspective. Number 5, pause before reacting. Pause before reacting. When you feel triggered, when you feel irritated when someone else is talking, pause. Ask yourself, what might this person be going through? That 1 second can change everything. Number 6, show up sincerity. Show up with sincerity. Be sincere. A kind message, a phone call, or simply sitting beside someone, just in silence, can express more empathy than 1,000 words. Just be present. So, empathy doesn't require perfection, it is just requires presence. So, show up with sincerity. As we wind up, I want us to look at empathy as a way of life. Empathy as a way of life. Because at the end of the day, empathy is what makes us human. It is the heartbeat of compassion, the foundation of meaningful connections, and it's actually the bridge between pain and healing. We live in a time where it is easy to become numb, cynical, and even self-absorbed. But empathy calls us to stay soft, to stay open, to keep reaching for another, to keep reaching for one another, even when it is hard, even when it is inconvenient. That is true empathy. Imagine a world where every person felt understood, where judgment was replaced with curiosity, where we paused long enough to truly see each other. That world is possible. I believe it is possible. And it begins with each of us. One moment, one conversation, one act of empathy at a time. It begins with each one of us, one moment, one conversation, and one act of empathy at a time. So here is your invitation. Practice empathy. Practice empathy with your family. Practice empathy even with strangers, with those who challenge you. Practice empathy. You don't have to argue. And most importantly, above everything else, practice empathy with yourself. Practice empathy with yourself. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me today. If this message touched you, please share it with someone who needs it. Let's keep building a community where empathy is not just a word, but a way of life. With care It's bye bye for now. See you next time.